Hello, this is Jason Malinak, and I want to take you behind the scenes or behind the reports a little bit to show you some tips and tricks and just inner workings of what's happening in your oily reports. So first we'll look at the hustle report. And the first thing I want to point out is that the dual filters are labeled underneath every single report. So dual filters are looking at multiple variables, and there are some of them that use multiple filters, but this is different from just single filters that you use on your virtual office. So you're able to sort by multiple points of data at a time. One little thing that I can show you, you click on this little arrow right here to scroll up, and you get to see 3 dots. So you click on those 3 dots and you select export data. And when you're doing that, it's going to take this information directly from your eager oilers, and it's going to download it as a CSV file. So you can see specifically that information that's relative to your report. And you can do that for every single type of graph that is in an oily report. Also want to point out that you can enlarge any of the reports here as well. You can click on this focus mode and it will show you only that information. This is a good place where you can print screen or screen capture information if you want to refer to it another time. Generally, your best opportunities are going to be toward the top of the list, and you'll notice if you want to scroll, you have to click on the little arrow and then move the bar up and down. If you just go directly to the bar, it won't allow you, so always make sure you click on the up and down arrows first. But the best opportunities are going to be up here. So, if you wanted to identify an eager oiler, top of your list is going to be way better than down low. Just by the variables of newer members and higher PV. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean number one is the absolute best opportunity or identification of an eager oiler than, say, your 15th person or your 10th person. It's just saying that your top 10 are probably going to be way more eager about essential oils than, say, your 500th person or 800th person down on the list, based upon looking for new members that are excited about the oils. Sometimes when you're viewing these reports, you can click, once you click on that arrow, and you go over the headers, you can click on this little black arrow and see the PV. It'll actually sort from greatest to least. So this is a nice way that you can see out of all those people who did have the highest PV. But here's what happens. Once you click on these sort buttons, you lose the eager oiler ranking algorithm. So if you want to get back to that algorithm, you can just click. If you can see on the far left, there is a little tiny column. You would click on that and it would bring it back to sort by the direction that you're wanting to see by these 2 variables, newer members and higher PV. If your graph doesn't have one of those reports on the left, like starters does not have extra little gray area on the left, and you got it out of order, you would just always sort by the far right column to bring it back to where it was. But generally, when you're clicking on here, it's programmed where you're not going to accidentally sort it. You really have to intentionally do that, so you shouldn't have that problem. Let's see. I want to point out a few nuances for a bunch of the different labels, and some of them are obvious maybe if you look at the dual filters, but eager oilers and tentative oilers, you've got to have a PV that is greater than 0 if your name wants to show up. So if you've got 0 PV, you're not going to show up. And the same with tentative oilers. Let's see. We'll look at second chance oilers right here. These members have never made an order according to Young Living. And if they ordered at one point, they should not appear here. This is because you've got a last order date that is blank. So that information, there's nothing there for you to reference. Also, to point out something about starters right here. So starters can't be on ER already, and this to be on this list would require them to have ordered at least once. So members that have never ordered might start on ER, but they would be on the second chance Oiler list. Also, overdue big spenders and hesitating Oilers have to have a last order for someone's name to appear here. Increasers have to use ER, otherwise they won't appear on your list. So the other thing that you can notice is if there's anything that might be unusual, that you say, really, is that true? Always investigate to see what's going on, because all of this information is calculated from your Young Living CSV download. And if you don't understand something or something doesn't quite seem right, you can check. Like you can see, even here in this second chance Oilers, you've got a sign-up date that was back in 2010. Well, that is the sign-up date that is listed that Young Living currently has. Now, maybe this person joined and they canceled and then they joined up again, and that's why it's keeping the original sign-up date. But all the data is coming straight from your data source of the CSV file. I want to talk to you about the increasers here, and particularly about the PV to ER PV ratio. So you can see this fictional person, Claudette, she ordered $372.50 worth of PV in this month, and her ERPV was 55. So she is ranked very high because this is looking at the PV number, so 372 divided by the ERPV. So when that is very high, it means that this person is trying a lot more products and buying a lot more products than what they have coming on recurring shipments. So when it's greater than 1, you have a greater chance to help convert some of these one-time purchases to become recurring purchases. If their PV can also be 1, so if you were to scroll down farther, you'd eventually find where this ratio is near 1, where here you can see they had 62.50 in PV and 62.50 in ER. That's where the only thing that they've purchased in that month is their recurring shipment. And then you can also see where someone's PV might be lower than what they have scheduled on ERPV, and that payment probably has not, or that shipment has probably not been paid for yet. But that's where PV to ERPV ratio would be less than 1. One thing I want to point out is that you can, as a label is placed on an individual, one individual can have multiple labels. They might be a skeptical Oiler and or let's say they might be a eager Oiler and overdue big or hesitating Oiler. I don't know. But it is possible for names to appear in 2 places. So you can put 2 labels on a person, and they might show, particularly if you have a smaller team, some individuals might show up in multiple places, and that's completely normal. As your team increases in size, you'll start really distinctively seen who are each of these label types. And you, as a person is in one group, eventually they will transfer to another group as well. A case of this would be skeptical Oilers, so newer members that have 0 PV, say they just signed up and they've never bought anything. Through the passage of time, they will turn into second chance Oilers if they've never ordered anything, no last order date, and they're older members. So there's a transfer from skeptical Oilers to second chance Oilers. And there's also a natural transition from tentative Oilers, who are newer members and that have lower PV. And those turn into hesitating Oilers, where they have an older last order date and a lower last order PV. Now, that concludes the hustle report, tips and tricks. Let's look at the team visualizer report to learn some little nuances that are going on here. First up is this. This is called a tree map. Each box is a member of your team, and if you hover over them, you can see their name and their PV. And the size of their box is in proportion to their PV. So you can see our fictional person, Samuel K. King, ordered close to 1,400 PV. And the smallest order over here, over Marissa, she had 72 PV. So this just allows you to visualize your team and see what the sum of all the PVs is the OGV, so the OGV of your team. Next up there are 5 measurements. Most of them are self-explanatory, but the first one about new enrollees, this will work in the current month that you're running the report within that same month. So if you are running a March report within the month of March, and you had new enrollees, this number there, how many new enrollees you have would show up right there. But if you run this report in your March report in April, it's going to show it as 0. So if you're really wanting to see how many new members visually right here, you would need to see that within running for the current month, and in that at the very end of the month, last day of the month, to see how many new enrollees. And just so you know that will apply also on the engagement new enrollees for the month, and you'll see this note here that you need to run it within the current month. One thing to point out also is that these reports, both of them are in beta mode right now. There are things that are still being corrected and perfected. I will say one thing that you can do that's pretty neat is you can come in here and type in your or anyone's member ID, and you can make their little gray circle appear bigger. So you can see here, there it is. We'll delete it. And we'll type it in. And that's just the made up. So if that's actually your member ID, well, what are the odds? But you can see that gray box or gray circle gets bigger, and it tells you, helps you see and find an individual within the group. And if you see this little information sign, this reporting requires a lot of calculating power, tracing going on. And if you have a high number of members on your team, you'll see this little eye, and it'll just tell you that not everyone necessarily is being shown. Relating to that, if you have a larger team, you might see people that are just out here separate. These are what I call orphans, but technically they are part of your organization, but just the the ability to trace up from member ID to sponsor ID is not fluid. So you can still see them, but they aren't necessarily tied directly. Another fun thing that you can do here is you can click on this, and if you want to sort it a little bit, I call it throwing the data, but you can pick one of them and throw it, and it will readjust your report. So if you didn't like the way that report was viewing, or kind of where the dots were, you can pull this guy back, see I'm stretching him, throw it, and it'll kind of adjust some of the lines where you can see where everyone is positioned. And you can zoom in and see those individuals' member IDs. Another good thing about this report is you have the ability to filter by rank and filter by level. So you can click, say you want to only look at, let's say, your stars. So you click on stars, and it's going to update all of the indicators, plus you're going to see who those individuals are. And over here you can see their member ID and their name, PV, OGV, ERPV, and last order date. And over here you will see all those individuals tied up as well. I will say this node view is not very useful at the rank level, so I typically ignore that for rank, but where it is useful is looking at the level. So maybe you want to just say, I want to look at myself, level 0, and my level 1s. So at that point in time, you get to see yourself and your level 1s, and then if you want to get rid of these filters, you can just click back on there, and you see that. You can select then your level 2s to be included as well, and your group gets larger. You can click on level 3, zoom out, and to zoom out, you can use your scroller on your mouse, or you can press Control and the plus or minus sign. Mac users might have a slightly different interface. But doing this where you select multiple levels at a time is a fun way to just kind of see how your organization grows as you add each additional level. Next up, we will look at the Team Health Slicer report. So one thing I want to point out here is across the top, you have everything sorted by levels. So going this way, levels. Going this way, rank. And then in your vertical columns, you have number of members. This is looking at PV, and this is looking at your ERPV. One thing that is neat to do is to look at your levels and look at the shape of this grouping. Different teams have different shapes. You can have what I would call, this is more similar to a normal distribution. You can also have a fat head, which is where there's a whole lot more people and levels close to you. Or you could have a fat tail where someone in your downline has grown their team very fast and you have a whole lot of people farther out. You could also have a weak center where maybe you grow up here and then you've got a weak middle level and then it takes off elsewhere. But you can start identifying how far do you go out that your team members are growing in size to where it begins to shrink, and do you have multiple of those pivot points? And there'll be additional probably teachings on that, but that's just something you can kind of look out there. I want to point out that you can click on any of these levels or ranks, and all the rest of the report will filter that as well. So if you clicked on your level 5, you can see in my level 5s, I've got 298 individuals that are no rank, 128 distributors, So you can start looking at these variables in different ways. Also, the indicators are updating. And if you wanted to look at multiple levels, you can press the control button and click on multiple levels to look at where all of those are appearing together as well. Once you've done that and you get off of it, you can click that again, and then everything will be highlighted. When you're looking at these health indicators are most accurate nearer the end of the month. You do want to track these through times, typically at the end of the month, to see if some of these indicators are going up, if they're flat, or if they're going down. And it will tell you different things about the health of your team. These 5 indicators all focus on PV and ERPV. And to walk through each of these, this first one here, the 39% in this example, is the number of members on your team that have PV that's greater than 0 divided by the total number of members on your team. So it's what percentage of your team bought something this month. And generally you want this to increase. It should increase through the month unless your team is growing faster with new members that are not buying anything. And through time, you want this to be higher. The next one, the 72% here in the example, is the number of members with ER that is greater than 0 divided by the number of members with PV that is greater than 0. And you want this to be higher through time. Next up, the 145 in the example, is the sum of PV from members with PV that is greater than 0 divided by the number of members with PV that is greater than 0. And you want this higher. It's just showing you how much the average PV is from somebody that has PV. The 126 in the example is the sum of ER from members with ERPV that's greater than 0 divided by the number of members with ERPV greater than 0. And you want this number to be higher with time. And last here is the opportunity ratio. And this is related to the increasers from the month-end hustle report label. And it is the sum of all ER divided by the sum of all PV. And it's not the average of every individual's opportunity ratio. A higher percentage tells you that you have a lot of opportunities, which is great for growth potential. And if you increase how much the member has on ER, so if you do increase their ER order, then this number will go down, which is good because you achieved your good goal. So, your success at targeting this indicator will likely cycle up and down through time as you work on it. And being high or low is neither good nor bad. High just means you have a lot of opportunity or chances to increase the ER. And if you do a good job at that, that number is going to go down. And so it being lower doesn't mean you did a bad job. It means you accomplished your goal. So you're going to have some natural cycles with all of these indicators, but tracking these are going to help you understand generally how much people are ordering, how much are they putting on ER, what percentage of your team has ER that's buying anything, and what percentage of your team is got PV. You definitely want to be able to look at these for setting specific goals, and you can even get very specific, like maybe when you were clicking on all of these levels, looking at the indicators, you saw that one of them had an outlier. So maybe you wanted to say, I want to focus on getting the average ERPV for my level 6, or your downlines, your level 5s or level 4s. It'll be different for each of them, but you want to focus on a specific level and improving the indicators there. You can set specific indicators to help strengthen all parts of your team. Next up, we're going to look at what's happening on the team rank health report as well as the team level health report. Both of these reports are very similar to each other, and they are related to the health slicer report. So here let's take an example of average ERPV per member that has ER. So you can see platinum is at 322. So if we go back over here and we select, well, our platinum person, the indicators will update and you'll see 322 is the average ERPV of that individual. But every number on here, so here's that 322, can be tied back to a number over here when you've sliced it by the level or the rank on this page or the level on this page. So what you want to do is, you can see the percentage of your team members that have PV greater than 0 is percentage of PV. So all of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are directly related to these 5 indicators. And then always in the top right hand corner here, it's just the graph of your ERPV and PV by the rank or by the level. So you want to look at, how do you look at this? You see, are there any outliers that are different? So maybe you say, okay, I think, seeing all this data, I think my senior star average ERPV is a little bit lower than it probably should be. There's not a lot of difference between a senior star and a stars. And for my team, it's 193, 177. Maybe I want to focus on who are my senior stars and increasing their ERPV to be more in line with what a star's ERPV is. Or you can see ones that are high or low. So you're looking for outliers in the rank or in the level view. So if you see something is very high, like why is level 5 so much higher than level 7? Or level 5 individuals really just that much more engaged than level 7? Or level 7 team members, maybe they don't have strong leadership at level 6 that's helping them get more of their purchases on ERPV. So you're looking for what is the norm and then where are the outliers above, tall outliers or short outliers. Next, we'll look at the team leg summary report. This first area really just shows you, 4 different ways to look at your OGV. And who is determined on which individuals are shown on this level? They are your level 1s and your 6 level 1 individuals that have the highest OGV. So you can see it just in a bar graph view of your OGV, or you can look at it as a percentage of how they compare in size to each other, or in a tree map, and also a radar chart. You can see who is biggest. And keep an eye on these 6 because this is eventually the top 6 are the most important as you reach higher ranks. You can keep an eye on their PV, PGV, and ERV and compare it to each other. And then finally, you can see what their current rank is and what their highest rank has been. And you can compare how long each of those 6 individuals have been a member, how long they've been a member of Young Living. Next, we will look at the ER and PV report. Your team's ERPV comes in on different days of the month. So here's the 1st of the month, 2nd of the month, 3rd of the month, 4th of the month. So how much ERPV is coming in on each day? So you can see if your recurring payments there are front-loaded, back-loaded, or evenly distributed. And you can start anticipating how much PV will be added on which days of the month. The dashed line is just the average for the month, so you can see which days are above average. You can see in this case, day 21 is above average, and the 18th of the month is below average. You can also keep track of your ERPV by rank and level, and your PV by rank and level. So your total ERPV in this case is 127,000. You can see that 127,000 broken out by level, or you can see that 127,000 broken out by rank. And even if you want to see how much are my level 5 distributors have on ERPV, you can see that breakdown. And then finally on this this page of reports, you can look at your entire team in 3 important categories. The first, those on ERPV, those that have PV but are not on ER, and finally those that neither have PV nor ER. So you want your green area to increase, you want your blue to transfer to green, or you want the blue to grow. And then also you want to move the pinks to green or blue. So keeping an eye on this and what percentage of your team makeup is it what's growing or what's shrinking will help you keep an eye on understanding how many the engagement level of your team. Last, looking at the social reports, you can take a screenshot of these pages and then photo edit this square section to be able to share it on probably your Facebook group page. These are the only reports and images in Oily Reports that you can share with others. And one thing that I want to point out is that on the top new rankers this month by OGV, you can take multiple screenshots. If you have a lot of members that are new rankers this month, there's a scroll bar here, so you could take a snip of this square right here with all of these names. And Jackie C. Murtha was the last one. You can watch her name. And then you can scroll down, and then you can take your next screenshot. You can keep on doing that for all of your new rankers this month and tag them in your Facebook group when you're celebrating their success. I hope you've enjoyed this behind the scenes look at the Oily Reports, and you've learned something or some little trick or some little technique that will help you improve your business. So grow like a pro with Oily Reports. Have a good day.